This meeting is being recorded or broadcasted. Images and sounds may be captured of those attending the meeting. First up, we have the Gilroy Unified School District Student Board representatives who will be introducing themselves and leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Step up to the mic, students.
Hello, my name is Sharina Sanj and I'm the Student Board Representative for Gilroy High School.
Hi, I'm Erica Clinton and I'm the Student Board Rep for Christopher High School.
Hi, I'm Gabriel Kong. I'm the Student Board Representative for GACA.
Welcome, looking forward to working with you.
Please rise for the pledge. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may sit.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Next, we have approval of the agenda. I will entertain a motion to approve. Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Leave on agenda. Next, item 4C, recognitions. The CASP students. Dr. Flores, what is the CASP?
Thank you. I love this every year where we get a chance to recognize so many of our students that have done a great job on the CASP. I can do this off the top of my head. So 5 years ago, the state changed our state testing program. It used to be called the California State Test, and many of you have been around, you'll remember that we received an API score for each goal. I have two now, thank you. And then about 5 years ago, the state changed that assessment program. So now we have, the test is called the California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress, which we all call CASP. So that's our new assessment program, and that's how we receive our scores now. And that's in English, language arts, and math. What I'm really excited to announce tonight that we have 52 students being recognized tonight. That's incredible. For receiving what it's not called a perfect score anymore, it's called the highest possible score on the test. And we have 52 students here tonight from GECA and Christopher High that we're going to recognize for reaching that high level of academic achievement. And the assessments are very different than the assessments in the past. In the past, it was pretty much multiple choice. And a lot of students could score a perfect score on that test. This is a very, very different assessment. It involves a lot of problem solving, thinking critically, reading passages, being very analytical, and higher level thinking skills that they're going to be required to use out in the world after they leave us. So this year, 83 students district-wide received the highest possible score on the English Language Arts section, and 56 in the district received the highest possible score on the math section of the test. And, this is amazing, we have 45 students in the district who achieved the highest possible score on both tests, and 6 are from Christopher High and 12 from GECA. So we're going to get to recognize them this evening. As a district, we are so proud of each of these students, and we're going to honor them this evening. So I'd like to ask Jeremy Dirks to come up, and we'll do Christopher High first. And he's going to read the names of the students, and I'll hand them the certificates. Jeremy Dirks is principal, and Julie Bergman is assistant principal.
All right. Once again, good evening, Board President Pace, school board members, and Superintendent Dr. Flores. I spoke a little bit earlier tonight on our board report, so I believe in a shared leadership model, so I'm actually going to have Chris Bergman, our assistant principal, and Eric Wada, our assistant principal, announce our students.
All right, so Nebiu Bogali,
Congratulations. Elise Enquist. Hector Gonzalez. Aaron Dutra. Anthony Navarro. Tatiana Rastos Cueva. Chloe Turiello. Sarah Arcello. Darius Rutman. All right, congratulations. And Caitlin Yang. If you received a highest possible score on both tests, could you raise your hand? I know there were 6 of you. Sign your certificate. It's Sarah, Darius, and Caitlin. Great. So congratulations, Christopher High students, on this amazing performance. We're very proud of you. You're probably going to have 2 lanes. 2 lines.
Perfect, and you can't see me, and you cannot be seen in the picture, so find some space. Perfect. Okay, me first, then moms and dads, all right? Moms and dads, you guys can come up and take pictures. We're very proud of you. All right, friends, ready, 1, 2, 3. One, two. Okay, moms and dads.
I'd like to ask Sonia Flores, principal of GECA, to come forward. Okay, we probably need to let them go out first. All right, now it's GECA's turn.
Good evening. I'm excited to present to you tonight the students from the Dr. T.J. Owens Gilroy Early College Academy earning the top CAST scores. We'll start with English Language Arts. Zach Bloyer. Ethan Jargon. Betty Jargon. Kevin Klein. Stephen Din. Odalise Garcia. Saragopan Kalaniapan. Madison Smith. In mathematics, from 8th grade, Joshua Cabrera Regalado. Amanda Carroll. Elian Castillo. James Din. Alejandro Hernandez. Leo Lee. For English Language Arts and Mathematics, grade 11, Kenneth Apte. Trent Barker. Lucas Becker. Kashika Barol. Dino Brown. Nicholas Dollywall. And then for English Language Arts and Mathematics, grade 8, Isaac Huang. For 11th grade, Joshua Kim. For 8th grade, Vijay Kathanaboyna. For 11th grade, Aston LeQuang. Tanvir Man. Obey Kaluri. For 8th grade, Ryan Ramil. 11th grade, Andrew Tan. 8th grade, Jonathan Tessman. For 8th grade in mathematics, Aiden Brown. 8th grade English Language Arts, Alexandra Barrett. 11th grade ELA, Titus Yun. For both ELA and for math, 11th grade, Milan Toy. And for ELA 11th grade, Andrew Tang.
All right. So, things have calmed down, and I think we're ready to continue our meeting. I should notify you that Trustee Anisha Munshi has joined us by conference call. She is on. And that means we will be doing roll call votes for all items. Hi, Anisha. This brings us to item 4D, general public comment.
Do you want just a regular one?
If you have a public comment you'd like to make at this point, there's some pink cards back there. But at this time, members of the public may address the board on any item or any issues within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board that is not listed on the agenda. No action can be taken on an item not on the agenda at this time, but may be referred to the administration or put on a future agenda. Members of the public may also address the board on an agenda item before or during the board's consideration of that item. In accordance with Board Bylaw 9323, individual remarks will be limited to 3 minutes each. We have 2 general public comments at this time.
What we're going to do from this point forward. Because from this point, from the amount of phone calls and texts that I'm getting, it may start another process of another litigation process. And that's going to name a lot of people at this point. Because we parents, we're not messing around anymore. We're done. We're done with the excuses. We're done with no one calling us back. No one doing anything, no one stepping up to the plate. We're done. And however this falls out in the future, this is a reflection on you guys. Especially the director of special ed over here. Okay, she's the face of this board. She's the face of special education. You guys are the ones that hired her. You guys need to do something about it. Because this has been going on for too long, and we're not having it anymore. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Currently, guided studies has been altered and changed, and so now it's a skills building class. Now, my son relies heavily on guided studies, and I was informed, because my son had a one-on-one tutor, and I was informed that if he was in guided studies, he would receive his homework help there. Now what's happening, because it was designed for all his pull-out services, whether the speech, the OT, his mental health, by the way, that I got through due process, all the pull-outs are supposed to be from that classroom. Now they're telling me that 50% of that classroom time is designed for skill building. So if he's having pull-outs, then he's already behind on his homework. So now he's receiving a D- in that class, and all his other classes he's receiving A's. That is incorrect. We should have been informed as parents that this new program was coming in, because now it's going to put our children with special needs who rely heavily on assistance, one-on-one assistance with an instructor. Now they're going to get behind in their education. And it's going to be a domino effect. And it's just not right.
Thank you very much. Okay, this brings us to the report of action taken in closed session. On a motion by Trustee Good and seconded by Trustee Doyle, the board voted 6-0 to approve a settlement agreement in OAH case 2019-080034. Trustee Munchi was absent. That brings us to the superintendent's report. Dr. Flores.
Thank you. Well, I know you know that this has been a very busy few weeks with the start of school, and many, many great things are happening out in our schools. We had a very smooth opening, and I've visited many of them now at this point, and things are going very well. As I reported last time, our biggest challenge was Solar-Sano's traffic because of the closure of Christmas Hill and Miller. I'm so pleased to report that Christmas Hill reopened yesterday. I drove around this morning checking out the traffic, and it's a totally different place. There isn't a traffic issue anymore. So now that Christmas Hill's back open, we have access, parents have access from that side, and students, I think about 150 students walked through the park yesterday and today. It's really helped with the traffic problems. So that's fixed, thankfully. We met with the ADB staff since our last board meeting. I had a meeting at South Valley Middle School about specialized bikes. I've told you about that program before. In fact, half the bikes have now been delivered. So we're very excited about kicking off a second specialized bike program at South Valley Middle School sometime this year. And really, I was going to introduce Jason Smith. He was sitting right here in the front row with his daughter, who is recognized as a GECA student. He is replacing Kurt Sportle, who I attended a retirement reception this afternoon at 3 at the police department. So Jason is the interim captain, taking over Kurt's position. And coincidentally, he was here this evening with his daughter, having recognition, so that was great. I meet monthly with the Gavilan president, Kathleen Rose, and the city administrator, Gabe Gonzalez. Gabe couldn't join us this month, but Kathleen Rose and I were able to talk about a lot of things, including GECA and how wonderful it is. It's nice to hear that every month. So it's great partnership. I just wanted to remind you, as she did, that we're all going to, most of us, I think, maybe all of us are going to the celebration. Saturday night is 100 or 150 years? 100-year celebration for Gavilan College. That's on Saturday night. I met with all the student board reps and their advisors. I do that once a year at the beginning of the year to talk about what their role is as a student board rep, and the first one will be here next time. Gave them the schedules and talked about PowerPoints and things like that. Very good group of excited student board reps. I'm excited about that. Last Thursday night, we attended the ADB Back to School Night and talked about the potential of a closure of a school, and that might be ADB depending on your actions. I did attend with Alvaro and Cheryl the Christmas Hill Park reopening. There was Enrique and Linda also attended. I'm really glad we went. It was very nice ceremony, wonderful comments by the chaplain. And just so the audience knows, that memorial that you're looking at has 17 poles, because there are now 17 people who were shot or injured at the Garlic Festival, and there are 3 large stones that represent the 3 people that lost their life. So we were there for the dedication. It's not done. There's a lot of work to be done. It's going to look great when it's completed, but that's on the north end of the park. So if you're going through there, just take a moment, as we did, and have a moment of silence for the people who lost their lives and for the victims. A great idea that some of our board members have was to have a maintenance luncheon yesterday. Was that yesterday? Seems like ages ago. So yesterday, the board, Alvaro and I contributed to providing them with a lunch. BC picked up the food. Thank you, BC. And it was a wonderful luncheon. We did it because they did so much work this summer. It's phenomenal, the amount of work maintenance operations did this summer. It's just incredible. And then on top of it, with the Solorzano traffic situation, about 7 or 8 of them helped us every day for 12, 13 days with that traffic situation, which of course put them behind in their jobs. But we just wanted to thank them for doing such a great job this summer and for helping with that situation. And I already mentioned the retirement ceremony for Kurt. That was a really nice ceremony. I've never been to, I guess they have a recognition ceremony periodically to recognize people being appointed or being promoted and retiring. And apparently there are a lot more people there today than normal because of Kurt's retirement. I've continued my fall visits, and so we did the 3 middle schools. Enrique and Linda and Twin today joined me on those. And very excited about what's happening at the middle school. We got a chance to see new curriculum that's being implemented, talk to teachers. There's a lot of enthusiasm about the new materials and a lot of appreciation for professional development on, I always say it wrong, Gizmos, which is a really exciting software package that they're using in math and science at the middle school level. And as I mentioned, we have a number of events coming up. We have the Gavilan College Gala this Saturday night. Next Monday is our SPAC meeting, and I mentioned to you in some of my reports that I've expanded the membership. So we'll have 2 members coming from each school starting Monday. The groundbreaking for Brownell is coming up. We're really excited about this. In fact, the contractors are moving so fast. I'm so glad we moved the groundbreaking up, because they literally have already dug up all the ground on the big field next to First Street. They dug it up, and then you may have noticed the pile of dirt next to Solorzano is getting smaller and smaller because they're moving dirt over by truckloads. I mean, it's just incredible how much dirt they've moved over. So that project's officially on its way. Our groundbreaking will be ceremonial in the sense that we want the whole community to know that we've officially started the rebuild of Brownell. I have a principals meeting up this Thursday, and Friday is staff development for the whole district. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Staff Development Day, does that mean my son is not in school that day?
Yes,
Okay.
good question. Students will not be in school on Friday, because we have a district-wide staff development day.
Okay, I should pay attention to that. All right, this brings us to the consent agenda. We're going to do this in couple pieces. First, I will entertain a motion for items 6A through 6H, visit hotel.
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, again, all votes tonight are roll call, so roll call please.
Enrique Diaz,
Yes.
BC Doyle,
Yes.
Twin Fioc,
Yes.
Mark Good,
Yes.
Anisha Munchi,
Yes.
James Pace,
Yes.
Linda Paceno,
Yes.
Thank you. And then item 6I, I will entertain a motion.
Move approval. Second.
Roll call please.
Enrique Diaz,
Yes.
BC Doyle,
Yes.
Twin Fioc,
Yes.
Mark Good,
Abstain.
Anisha Munchi,
Yes.
James Pace,
Yes.
Linda Paceno,
Yes.
Thank you very much. Item 7A, first reading, high school advanced placement physics textbook adoption. Good evening, Dr. Padilla.
While we're waiting, President Pace, board members, superintendent, thank you for having me tonight. And you do have a copy of the book. I believe it started with President, it made it all the way down to Mr. Diaz. So that is the book that we are recommending for our AP Physics. And to let you know, I'll start with this. The AP is run through College Board, which is an organization that has certain requirements for districts to, in fact, host classes on their campus. Advanced placement are classes that allow for students to take an exam at the end of the course, and if they receive a 3 or better, to receive college credit. So in order to offer these and to offer the credit, we must abide by the College Board rules. One of those rules is that we, in fact, update the curriculum, and we have it within at least 10 years. Our AP Physics, you may be wondering why we waited on this one. We have had a lot of turnover of teachers within our physics program. That has made it very difficult to reach consensus, as one of our requirements is that we also have the same textbooks at all of the high schools and using the same curriculum. So we do have a new AP Physics team that is working together and is being led by Janet Lee, one of our instructional specialists at the high school. So she has helped get them together and also get the preview of materials together. So that's it. Thank you. So we are recommending the College Physics 11th edition. As you can tell by the book, it definitely is college physics, and it looks exactly like a college textbook. It is a bit dense. We do know that, and that was one of the comments of the students. However, it does have a lot of information that was not available. As you can see, one of the issues with the other textbooks was that one was online only, and we are not in a position in our district to offer materials that are online only. There would be an equity issue with our students who do not have internet access at home for that. So that automatically is removed from the list. So that left us with 2. And the other one they did not believe was, believe it or not, as accessible to students as this one was. It was even more dense, and it did not allow for students where English might be their second language or where they struggle a little bit with the academic language, access to those materials. So all 3 high schools were included. However, we don't offer AP Physics at GECA. We did, however, get input from one of their Gavilan teachers on the course. They worked with Ms. Pratt, who is one of our Ed Services coordinators, to get the pilot materials and to make this decision. So we did look at all of the learning objectives for physics to make sure everything was covered so that the students would be prepared not only to be able to master the curriculum, but also to successfully pass the exam. So the fiscal impact is about $19,000. I did mix up on your list the two schools. I mixed up the G and the C. Sorry, we need to rename our high schools, make it a little bit easier. So it is in fact Christopher High School that needs the majority of the books. We did last year purchase books with Gilroy High School. They wanted to use more of the books, so we actually had some that we will not have to purchase, which means that this price is in fact lower. We always give about a 20% leeway in addition, looking at students and the growth of the program to make sure that when new students come in or as we expand that we will have enough for those students who enter. And so you know, we are currently at 2 sections at each high school, and we're getting very close to possibly offering a 3rd for next year, because we have more and more interest in AP Physics, which is a wonderful thing. And we are, of course, meeting our LCAP goals to provide high-quality materials and updated materials for all of our students. Any questions? Hopefully not about the physics content.
Questions, board? Trustee Diaz?
Sorry I didn't ask this in advance, but is there a unit price per book?
I don't have that with me, I'm sorry, I would have to break it down, but I can send that to you.
Or how many books I can...
So, yeah, I can send you that list.
Okay.
So I didn't bring that in front of you.
And then the other one was more of a comment, is it would also be good to see what the digital versions are, either digital ebooks or online accessible versions, even though it'll hit equitable issues. And because it might prompt us to then in turn look into, if it's very favorable to look into that. So if Chromebooks are in the $300 range, then maybe tablets are even more affordable. And maybe that's something that could be doable. So we could be kind of swayed into moving in that direction. If not now, and definitely not now, but for future thought, or for other books for that matter.
Right, and we definitely have talked about that because more and more companies, and you heard Ms. Flores talk about that at the college level, that now a lot of professors do not assign textbooks, they assign a key. And all of your information is on a key. So we have talked about that in ways that as a district, we can get more access. The issue actually is not the Chromebooks, because we would have enough Chromebooks to be able to, to assign a Chromebook to a student to use. It's in fact the internet access. That if they don't have the access, the Chromebook is a nice heavy-duty weight. And you can't do much with it. So that is the other end of it. We have to come up with ways of how we get them access without having to go outside of their home at night.
Any further discussion? As a parent of someone in AP Physics right now, these textbooks would be for next year, or?
No, we will go through this, the process of the public preview, which will happen between now and the next board meeting. And if the board does approve this textbook, we will buy them immediately to use this year.
Okay, great. Thank you for this information item.
Thank you.
Next, item 7B, deliberation and possible action on elementary school closure. Dr. Flores.
Thank you. I'm going to limit my comments tonight. I've talked about this issue at a number of board meetings. So just for the public, because I see people here for the first time tonight, I'm going to make about 5 minutes of comments about what's happened this past year as it relates to a possible school closure, just for the benefit of those who haven't been here before. So as you, the board, knows from numerous board meetings over the past 2 years, the district is declining in enrollment. We are not alone. There are 31 districts in Santa Clara County, and 26 districts are declining, as most districts in the Bay Area are declining. Since the fall of 2016, there's been a decline of over 425 students at the elementary level in our district. This enrollment decline represents almost $5 million in lost revenue. There are a number of reasons for the decline here in the county and in the state. California's birth rate is the lowest it's been in 100 years. The national birth rate is the lowest since the Depression, and Gilroy's birth rate has dropped by over 200 students per year. Why is the birth rate so important? Approximately 80% of the students born 1 year show up in Gilroy kindergartens 5 years later, and then those numbers move up through the grade levels, and those numbers are getting smaller and smaller. Our elementary cohorts by grade, I just said that. This year's senior class has 912 students. This year's kindergarten class has 670 students, a difference of 242. So as those large classes leave and these small classes come in, the district is going to continue to get smaller and smaller. Another reason that we've read about and heard about a lot is the cost of housing is so prohibitive now in the Bay Area and our county that many families are leaving the area and the state. We've had lots of parents leave saying we're going to Arizona, New Mexico, Oregon. They can't afford to live here. Why is the birth rate so low? Young couples are delaying childbirth and they're having less children than prior generations. Also, people purchasing new homes in Gilroy have less children in the past, so that those new homes going in near Los Animas, the Glen Lomar project, we used to see 2 children. For every 2 homes purchased, a child would enroll in our district. Now it's for every 3 homes purchased, a child enrolls in our district. That's called student generation rate. The SGR, student generation rate, is not only declining for those $700,000-800,000 homes, but we're seeing it in the affordable projects also, like Harvest Park and Alexander Station, where the student generation rate has dropped dramatically. So last fall, after discussing the declining enrollment and the impact on our budget, we recommended 2 actions over a series of meetings. One dealt directly with our budget. We knew we had a big problem because of the lost revenue, and we knew it was going to be ongoing. So through the budget development process, which we initiated last fall, we announced the goal of reducing expenditures by close to $3 million in this year's, the 2019-20 budget. $2 million had already been reduced the prior 2 years. I'm sure you'll remember that. In May and June, we presented the proposed budget for this current school year, and the board approved $2.9 million in reductions. Additionally, a committee was formed to study the possibility of school closure. The committee's process followed the California Department of Education's guidelines for school closure. Closure of an elementary school would save about $750,000 of ongoing expenditures and possibly more. Additionally, if an elementary school is closed, staff is recommending the building be leased to generate additional revenue to offset the loss of the state funding due to declining enrollment. The committee met from January through May and studied numerous pieces of information. We shared with you at your request a copy of the committee's notebook, so you now have all of the information that they studied. And we decided to hold on sharing the committee's recommendation until we saw this fall's enrollment. And as you know, at our last board meeting, we gave you an update on our enrollment, and we shared that the decline has continued at the elementary level, with approximately 100 students less than a year ago. We also shared the committee's recommendation that if the board decides to close the school, that it be Antonio Del Bono. This is just a brief summary of the steps that have been taken to address the issues of declining enrollment and lost revenue. At prior board meetings, we've shared many slides about a long list of topics related to a school closure. Tonight, the board will have time to deliberate about the topic of whether to close a school, that's the first decision, and if so, which school. The board may choose to take action at this meeting or at the next board meeting. We're recommending that this decision be made by the end of September. If the decision is to close the school, there are many steps that will need to be taken to implement a school closure by next summer. We estimate that it will take 4 to 5 months to accomplish the tasks associated with a school closure. So I will now turn over the mic back to the president, James Pace. We'll be happy to respond to questions or comments.
Before we go to deliberate amongst the board, we have a request to speak. Ms. Godica.
Good evening, President Pace, Vice President Good, board members, and Superintendent Flores. I'm sorry. My name is Thalia Kodiga, and I am the principal of Antonio Del Bruno, also known as ADB. I understand the needs economically and financially of the district with regards to how enrollment is at the elementary level. I know that a decision is going to be made in regards to closing of the school. And if the school is closed, it will be ADB. As much as I and my school community do not want it to be ADB, I know this is the direction that we are headed. I, along with many staff members, some are here. We know that we're just awaiting this information to be handled and the vote to be handled. I ask, and the reason I'm here is I ask for a decision to be made as soon as possible so that we can begin to move forward. The unknown is upsetting and frightening, and some are angry because of it. Change is difficult. Having a decision made will allow us to move forward and begin in planning the needed decisions that need to happen to make it a positive move. When I hear my staff and students, or even our family members, just talking about the move, I hear the fear of the unknown and the change, and it's setting in. I know that with the support of the district and the school board, along with the receiving schools, we will work together to do what is best for all the students, the staff, and the families, and our community. I'm here to say to my school community, we will have compassion for every single individual having to go through this change. You won't be treated as a number. You are all my family. And as such, I, along with the district, will ensure that you are all taken care of. The best will be considered for placement for all. I may not be moving with you, and we may not all end up together. But we will be there for each other this school year. And we will make it the best transition that we can. Our family may be divided, but we really need to look at it this way. With everything that has gone on in our community, with the Gilroy Garland Festival, we are Gilroy Strong. We at ADB are part of that Gilroy Strong community. We will be ADB Strong and make a difference no matter where we land. To my staff, my door is open to you. I am here to support you. To the school's namesake, I haven't forgotten you, Mr. Antonio Del Bruno and family. I will work with the district to see what can be done with the name of the school. We would be celebrating our 20 years this year. I have been a part of this school for 16 years. And I thank you for the opportunity to be a part of this amazing school. It's my home away from home and my second family. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Board. Any discussion?
I mean, I'll start by saying that I agree with Ms. Kodiga. I agree with the community as well, that I think this was en route, this train was en route already back in the fall. The fact that it was called the School Closure Committee to me just seems very, very pointed. Again, my message from last time was that it can have two possible outcomes. And it wasn't the, let's save some more money out of the budget committee, or even a little bit less broad as let's shift the facility around committee. In particular, the district office hasn't been affected. I don't know why that isn't a facility that can be shifted around into existing facilities that are opening, if they are opening at the schools. Looking at some of the data, I see that a lot of portables are available at some of these schools that it seemed like a situation that we created. We created that amount of openness, that amount of open offices and classrooms. You know, we can add 100 classrooms to a school site and then say there's 100 classrooms that are open and vacant, but it's because we placed those 100 portables there. So in all these schools I see, especially ADD has 21 portables. It's the one with the most, actually. It's the one with the most portables. And so that creates a capacity that now we can reference to and say it costs money to keep it open, it costs money to run electricity to it, it costs money to have them there, but it was something of our own doing.
There used to be kids in them.
There were kids in all those portables.
And they're not
We
there
were
anymore.
big.
So now they can be removed. So those are numbers that I think that are being misrepresented here by saying there's a capacity of 710. We should represent static capacity as well as portable capacity, something that can be moved. There's some stuff that can't be changed at all, and static classrooms is one of them, but portables for sure are dynamic.
What we learned with GPS is portables aren't really all that portable.
Yeah.
Trustee Good?
Yeah, well, I have the distinct privilege. If I was on the board when we opened Antonio Boone in 1999, so I was present there. And probably what Mr. Diaz doesn't know, the law, this wasn't a situation, and the portables at Antonio Boone are not something that the board did. At the time, the law required that every time a new school was built, a certain percentage of those be portable classrooms. Why? Well, if I had to guess, it would be the construction lobby that was associated with building portables. So, but it wasn't the board that created that. It was the law, the state of California. Secondly, with regards to Mr. Diaz's comments about the district office, the reason we're looking at closing the schools is because declining enrollment. There's not a declining amount of employees that are working in the district office. So one of these apples and oranges, they don't go together.
My point with that is that we need to be creative on saving money, that we need to think outside the box, and I'd rather that the pain, the pressure points be here and not out there.
The pressure points, if you look at the budget, are going to be in personnel. The choice is close the school or terminate personnel. And I prefer, if that's the choice, and it is, based on, look at the budget, simple math, how many millions have we cut already?
4.5 in that range.
4.5 million. So we've already cut to the bone. The only other place to cut is to terminate personnel. I was also on the board when we had to look at potential layoffs. We did institute furlough days. That cuts to the meat of the employees. I would prefer not to do that.
I think that makes it a very binary, and I think that's also not true to say that it's cutting personnel or the school closure. I think that makes it very binary and makes it so that then it becomes kind of emotional at that point. But I don't think it comes to that. We have attrition normally. We just don't have to refill positions. We have people who retire. We just don't have to refill some positions, and we can revisit. But if you give me options, then we can look at that. And at the last meeting, we had this session, we're saying that if we don't approve this, and by the way, it would be approving a decision, a recommendation coming from a committee, that then we would have to go back and rethink that, rethink what the other options are. I'd like to see all those now. I'd like to see all of those options now and not wait until we decide to either go with it or not.
All of what options? What are you talking about? I don't get it.
You just presented one option, and that's an option.
So you won't look at laying off and terminating personnel?
If that's an option, that's an option.
It's math. There's only a certain amount of money.
I believe that that's an option. I mean, it may not be the best option, and then we can decide that, whether it's the best option or not. But right now, we just have one, and it's school closure. And in fact, it's not even school closure, let's figure out which one. It's school closure, and here's ADB, by the way.
Well, I can tell you, I for one, speaking for myself only, if the choice is between closing a school and terminating employees, I'm going to close the school before I terminate employees. That's my opinion.
Given we have capacity.
Correct.
And from what I understand, and again, a lot of this work was done prior to, and Ricky and I coming onto the board, a lot of cuts have already been done, and maybe that's because we were part of that process, we don't know what was cut.
Actually, we do have them here, and the biggest ones were exactly not filling in some positions. That was actually the number one item, was not filling in 2 full-time employee positions. And the number 4, number 5, and then the number 6 were also employee positions. By far, employees are our biggest chunk of the pie, which is also brings to mind that the cut that we're thinking of, $750,000, although it looks big, only amounts to less than 1% of the budget amount that we're talking about. It's about 88 million or something like that. We're looking at 750,000. So it isn't a big chunk, and the number of students that we're also declining by also isn't a percentage amount. They aren't big numbers. Now I look at this again, and I see the portables. Something else that came to mind to me was when I see the schools, something that's even of greater concern, whether we make a decision or not, is some of these schools at the capacity that they're at. They're sitting at 80, 90, 99% capacity. And when you have issues of not enough students in a school, for example, and that's also arbitrary, we have schools here by these numbers that are between 90 and 99%, and they're not declining. I also don't like those numbers. So if we're going to be shifting numbers around, we could reshift, we could redo boundaries and
District-wide, you're saying?
Say that?
You're saying redo the district-wide boundaries?
I would think so. That would be something, that's another option. I mean, there's all these different options, but right now we're only presented with one.
And how does that save money?
Well, what I'm saying is that it's not going to save us that much money. That it's not going to really alleviate the congestion either. But I think if we're really thinking about what's the best for students, that's the best for students. Giving them more elbow room, giving them more breathing room, increasing the student, or decreasing the student-teacher ratio. I mean, all those are the things that I don't see on our.
That would increase costs dramatically. That was counter to our goal.
Well, if the cost cutting is it, then that should have been the name of the committee. This came down to like school. I mean, that literally is the name of the committee. The School Closure Advisory Committee.
Yes.
It's like, you know, I went to a restaurant and I wanted steak, but it's vegetarian. It's like, it's not going to happen there. This committee is designed.
Meats now available there, baby. Were there other people in the district looking at budgets? Ms. Munchi.
Hi. Let me start by my heart goes out to both Sonia and her staff, but having been a former principal myself, I know, and I've said this at the last board meeting also, we have very hard decisions. Ripping apart a community of, staff members, principals, families, students is not easy. They are a family, I get it. But just as I said last time, the decision we are faced with is, do we make that hard decision about making for that family, or do we make the hard decision of laying off employees? Somebody's livelihood, somebody's family being impacted. They are both very hard decisions. And, looking at what we call the committee, whether it's closing the school committee or cost-cutting committee, to me they're the same. We are closing a school to cut costs. And why not personalize? Maybe some of us have the luxury of saying, well, let's just provide more room. We are talking about public funds that we don't have. So, whether we redraw boundaries, I'm not sure how that would save money because we're still looking at the same number of schools and the same number of students with the same amount of maintenance costs, which is what we are saving. The saving, the $750,000 we're looking at is the cost of maintenance. So for me, my heart goes out to the Antonio Del Bruno community. This is really hard for us as a board, but I still think that we have to look at how we are going to get to that dollar amount and where are we going to get it from. It's either in programs or staff or it's in the closure of the school. The other thing I want to just acknowledge is I know that 3 of us are new on the board. I know we were not directly involved in the decision making and we were not part of the committee. But I, as one board member, trust my colleagues who have been part of this process for over a year. And I trust their judgment. It's like me being part of some committee and another colleague saying, well, I wasn't there. I want to be respectful for the people that spent a lot of time looking at the numbers, crunching numbers. I'm 100% sure that nobody's taking this lightly and saying, let's just close one school. It's a hard decision, any way you look at it. Thanks.
Thank you. Trustee Pisano?
Unfortunately, I've been part of cost cutting in this district probably all my life, all my professional life. I started in 1975. I went through the cuts in 1988. I went through the cuts in 2003, and I went through the cuts in 2009. And in each, I had retired before the cuts of 2009, so I was pleased not to have to go through those. A recession is coming. We know that. When a recession comes, our property tax goes down. Every year, including 1979 when I was president of the Gilroy Federation of Teachers and was the lead negotiator, in only the 4th or 5th year of collective bargaining in the state of California. Every year, employees in this district ask for an increase in compensation. Every single year. I was one of those employees at the bargaining table as a teacher and as a certificate staff. And I've been on both sides. And we have looked every year. I was part of the research to say we're at the bottom of the 32 districts in Santa Clara County. We're not quite at the bottom, but we're still close to the bottom. And you, the community of Gilroy, has asked us to do the best we can to increase employee compensation. So in order to do that, when the state of California is 41st in per pupil spending, it's very difficult. It's almost impossible. The fat has already been cut out. We run a lean district and have run a lean district for at least the last 20 years. People are apt to say that there's a lot of fat in public education. I disagree with that. I feel strongly about public ed, and I feel strongly about compensation for all employees in this district. I always have. In order to do that, we need to find money. Closing a school, yes, the committee was called the closure of a school because we had discussed that as a way, as a cost-cutting measure in order to find money, to put money on the table and to run this district. So binary, yes, we either close one or we don't close one. But it was no surprise to anybody that has been sitting or watching those lovely tapes of these meetings. Why you would do that, I don't know. But anybody watching our meetings know that the purpose of that committee was to determine whether we can find money And part of that money is going for the 87% of our budget that goes for employees. 87%. We value employees in this district. But in order to continue to value you, we have to find money to pay you. And we're doing that. And we can't do that. If you remember a year ago when we were talking about cost cutting, I said everything's going to be on the table. You remember when I said sacred cows are going to be on here and people are fine with cost cutting until it comes to their sacred cow. And I said, cows are going to get gored. Now, do I understand how difficult it is to close a school? We've never closed a school in Gilroy Unified, except for San Ysidro. Yes, I remember. And that was done poorly. So let's do it right, number one. That was not done solely for money. That was partly done for safety reasons. We were growing at that time. We are not growing anymore. When we have 50 classrooms, whether they're portables, if we get rid of those portables, we're going to have to buy them back at a much higher rate, keep the portables. We're not selling that school. We're keeping whatever school if we choose to close one, because we may need it 10 or 15 years down the road, and they're not making new ones, and we're not selling the land because they're not making new land. So we're not getting money that way. We ask staffs, now I'm going to cry about it. We ask staffs to create programs, to develop a culture, to work their tails off and be dedicated to helping students and their families. And we now have to say, you did a great job, and this has nothing to do with the job that you did. But your school, your building, happens to be the one that costs the most and we could make and save most money from. That's it. It has nothing to do with the effort that you put in. It had nothing to do with how much or how little you decided to put energy to put into that. It's purely a financial reason, which may not make you feel any better. But I have to say that finding money for employee compensation makes me feel better. I hope eventually that makes you feel better. And I know it's going to be a long time before you feel better about that. And I think we should still celebrate that 20 year in the spring, because we have a lot to celebrate at ADB. A lot. So let's not lose sight of that. But yes, I am in favor of closing the school. I am in favor of closing ADB. And I agree that I believe we need to act tonight, because it's been a year of hurry up and wait, and the hurry up and wait needs to be done.
So my counter to that is that I would like to be presented multiple options, not just the binary one. And I was also hoping when teachers and staff and everybody who gets paid through the district, I always misuse the word, I mean everybody who gets paid. I was hoping that it wouldn't get to the point where people would get pitted, and now people can say, you got a raise, and therefore now we're closing the school. Because that's not the message that we want to say. We never want to say that. And we don't want teachers or educators or staff to feel that either, to say it was because of me that now we're closing this, because parents don't need to feel that way, staff doesn't need to feel that way. The meetings have been going on for a year. I don't think we can sit here and say that the staff is our most important thing, when back in May, we kind of knew the answer of, in fact, the school closure committee didn't meet again over the summer, and people were hired over the summer at that school, so their lives are being affected, potentially affected, and they weren't told, right? But with full faith, they just came and kind of had faith in us that they're going to be hired, they're going to be here, the school is going to be there. When in fact, I didn't know. Some people knew. So we can't say that they're our most important asset when we didn't prioritize their lives when they got hired.
Employees are hired by the district, not by a school, and those employees will have a job. We're not talking cutting personnel.
They were going somewhere. Amelia's not a clear crime because she has a
They're going
guarantee.
Change is
somewhere
hard.
in the district, and change is hard.
Just
I worked for the school district for 30 years. I've been through several recessions, as Linda has. One year we cut staff, we cut everything, district offices down to a skeleton crew. We cut all kinds of important things at the school that we really shouldn't have. Our maintenance crew was cut down to a third. Our schools went to pot. The grounds went to pot. You cannot lay off enough staff people. You cannot cut tasks and things that need to be done in the school district to equal what it would save to close this school. I'm not for close the school, but the figures are there. We have to. Otherwise, we have to let go of a whole bunch of people, and our school district will look like a disaster. When we finally got some money to come back and rebuild and redo it, it cost us more money to rebuild, set the grounds going, get our programs back in store. And I don't want to go through that again. I don't want to cut sports programs, drama, bands, elementary school bands. We don't need to cut those programs. If we don't close the school, we're going to have to. There are no other options. Moving portables, number one, it has to be approved by DSA. That costs money. Moving the portables costs a lot of money. And where are you going to move them to? We don't have the room on any of the school property we have now to move any portables anywhere, and it would not save us any money. I hate closing schools.
Let Trustee Doyle finish.
I think I thought he had.
No, you keep interrupting, and please give me some time. I've been patient and let you talk. You're asking for options we don't have. We have two options: close the school or lay off staff and get rid of programs and just let the school district go to hell. I prefer, I don't prefer, I hate closing the school. I was one of the main people who fought to open a new one, to build a new one. I mean, the rest of the people will let you know, I definitely fought for that.
Yep.
But it was showing to me that we couldn't open a new school. The facts are showing to me we have to close this school. And unfortunately, the figures show that's going to be Antonio Bell only. I hate to do it, but we have to. That's all there is to it. There are no other options.
Trustee Fine?
I think I have to trust the superintendent and the staff. I have to trust that they did their due diligence in all of the cost-cutting measures and that this is basically the final decision, whether to close a school to save money or to lay off staff to save money. And that's what I choose to do. Is I haven't been here very long, but from what I've seen of the staff and the superintendent, I've been very impressed with their dedication to the district and the students. So I think that, yes, it's a very hard decision to make, and I totally feel for the staff, the families that will be affected, and I have to commend your grace. But for you, Trustee Diaz, if you want all this information, I fear that it's just going to prolong this slow death, and we're going to come to the same conclusion. So, you know, the staff of AD have asked us to make a decision. I think we owe it to them to make a decision today.
I agree.
Thank you.
So I want us to be careful about, I haven't heard the district say that these are the different options. We've put those options out. I don't even know if they're the right options or not. Last time it was either, I mean, immediately we jumped to layoffs, but I haven't heard them say that either we close the school or there's layoffs.
Well, we have said it in many different forms. We've said it. Alvaro and I have said there are, and it's not an either or. We're going to close a school if you vote to do that, and we're going to make budget cuts. We are in declining enrollment now. Every year we're going to have to make budget cuts. This is just like a recession. Over 5 years, we made 20 million in cuts. It was incredibly painful. Positions were cut across the district. Programs were cut. Some of those haven't come back. So it's not a binary thing. We need to do both. And the savings from the elementary school is ongoing. It's not just 750,000 once. It's every year after that. That has a positive effect on our budget. So we have talked about this in many different forms at meetings. We've recommended 2 million in cuts for this year, 750 the year before. We eliminated the equipment replacement budget, $1 million, and now we're facing what do we do about all these Chromebooks that need to be replaced. Never mind district vehicles that are 30 years old and falling apart. We have a lot of needs as a district. This is going to be an ongoing discussion for a long time to come because we're in declining enrollment and our revenue is going to continue to drop. So this is a decision that the committee has recommended. We're recommending it, and now it's up to the board to take a vote. And I support the idea, and that's why I wrote to staff, because I've heard from enough people saying, just make a decision.
I'm curious about the mechanics. Say we decide to close the school, what happens?
We've been talking about that a lot. It's such an extensive process. First, we need to probably decide what the boundary will be, because as I've mentioned to you already, we have 11 portables at Luigi, or classrooms, and we have 5 at Rucker for possible placement of the 312 children that live in the attendance area of ADB. So we're going to have to decide what the new boundary is and how many students would go to each school. We need to analyze transportation, food services, staffing, where will staff go, how will that process work. Fortunately, with GTA, we have a very clear process in the contract, so we'll be following that. With the other bargaining units, it's a little different. You know, there's seniority and classifications in the CSEA. We're going to be looking at all those factors. That's going to take a lot of time. You know, there's just so many. Every time I turn around, we add something to the list. At both the parent meeting and the staff meeting, they've raised some very legitimate questions that are now on our list. We're maintaining a list of questions, and we need to consider all of those questions. That's going to take a lot of time. This is a major undertaking to even do it by next summer, but we're committed to that if that's the decision the board makes.
Trustee Pacena.
Trustee Diaz, unfortunately, as I was going to say the same thing that Superintendent Flores said, this is not the last opportunity we will have to make cuts. There will be plenty of times over your tenure as a board member over the next 3 years where we will be discussing cuts in this district because of declining enrollment. And I believe the recession that's coming in the state of California and less money coming into districts, as well as an increase in continued increase in STRS and PERS. So we will have plenty of opportunities to look at lots of different options of what to cut in this district, unfortunately.
And I read an article yesterday, I don't know how many other people read it, about the housing boom is over in the Bay Area and in our county. The lowest sales in years are happening right now. Wait till that hits.
Property taxes,
lots of revenue, even greater than just from declining enrollment.
So we have the perfect storm of declining enrollment and decreasing, possibility of decreasing rates coming out.
So just to restate my points, I'd like to see options. That's kind of where I stand. I don't know how we ended up at closed school closures. That's still a valid question. I'm not sure how that ended up on the chopping block. And then thirdly, how did we end up with ADB? You know, and that's, I mean, if I look at a map, it's just geographical map of the city, that's a big hole sitting there that will exist now if we do close ADB. And I can see just from the geographic layout that things can be redrawn differently to attract either offload different schools that are at 90% max capacity and draw to ADB, thereby keeping ADB open. So those are some of those are my tiers, just options, why school closures, and why ADB.
And I'm not going to keep saying this, I believe we've addressed all of that in numerous meetings. So we're not presenting that data again tonight, we've presented it numerous times. So I'm going to leave this to the board.
I think if Measure H hadn't passed and there was still growth happening in the north of town, things might be different, but we're not going to see a lot of growth in the ADB area. Trustee Doyle.
My question is, if we were to change our borderlines, take some of the students out of these schools that have more students than others, put them in the ADB, where are we saving any money?
Well,
where are we saving any money?
if it's not ADB that closes, because I mean, that's another question on in and of itself, is why is ADB closing?
We presented that data.
Decline.
Because
largest decline and it costs the most to run as far as utilities.
that is a separate thing to undertake. I mean, that should have been something that should have been looked at all these years.
Hold on, Anisha.
That should have been something that they shouldn't have waited till now. I mean, I see the numbers. There's some numbers at 9,000. I see all the numbers over there. I mean, those are definitely areas of concern. They should be addressed. But that is not, I mean, if I have a water leak in my house, I need to fix the water leak.
It's the only school that has indoor hallways. And the electricity is what is high. So there are lights in those indoor hallways.
Yeah.
That
Trust-
no other school has.
We need to figure out the losses.
Let's one at a time, please. Trustee Munchi.
Yeah, so I think I'm struggling a little bit with this discussion here. I need to understand, are we, Dr. Diaz, this is a question for you perhaps, are we as a board struggling with the decision whether we should close the school, or are we talking about why ADB? Because if not ADB, I want to understand how this conversation would be different if it were Glenview or Louisville or Rock Valley or any other school. It doesn't matter which school we pick. This is going to be a hard decision. And I think the committee, the reason it's ADB is because of all the data that's been presented by the committee. The issue is to cut costs, to cut maintenance costs, we have to focus one school. I don't see how this discussion or how this change is going to be any less if we pick any other school. Because, you know, we could pick any of the other schools and then the conversation would be, not this school. So I think that the issue is the maintenance cost. We cannot save costs maintaining the same number of facilities. That's the bottom line what it is. But in terms of why ADB, it's what the data was presented to us. That's how I see it. That the numbers I've looked at, the information I've been provided based on that, even though it's a hard decision. But I don't know if this conversation would be any different if we pick another school, because I'm struggling with that. For me, as a board trustee, I'm just as sane in closing ADB as I would be in closing Elliott or Los Angeles or Rock Valley or any other school. So I don't think the question should be why ADB. The question should be closing the school, is that the last option? And I think we've heard Dr. Board say that, we've heard all the committee say that, we've heard all our trustees that have worked on this for over a year now say that closing a school is the only option. For me, as a trustee, I would struggle with closing any other school just as much as we're struggling now.
Thank you. So without going over the same ground again, are there further comments? Trustee Good?
Yeah, just for the record, I mean, on the left hand, in the event things change, as Trustee Pacino points out, if we close the school, we're not going to sell it. We're going to keep it because they're not making new land. It would be foolish for us to get rid of it. On the other hand, if the enrollment keeps declining, as it looks like it has been and is and continues to be, this is the first of more than one school. We could be closing here again in 2 years or 3 years, closing a second elementary school. So, and the data has been went through ad nauseum. I mean, I understand you want to look at some other factors. Well, as far as I'm speaking for myself, I've looked at all the data. I spent 5 months of my life looking at this data on a committee. The other board has been participating and been looking at the data. You've been presented all the data that the committee looked at. If you want more data, well, that's you. I don't want to look at any more data. And after hearing from Principal Codiga, I'm prepared to vote on this tonight.
Trustee Fine?
So I was going to say, should we make a motion, the first motion to decide whether to close the school?
I will entertain a motion to close the school.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second from Trustee Doyle and Trustee Pacino. This is a roll call vote.
Enrique Diaz,
No.
BC Doyle,
Yes.
Twin Siak,
Yes.
Mark Good,
Yes.
Anisha Munchi,
Yes.
James Pace,
Yes.
Linda Pacino,
Yes.
Motion carries. Given that, I will entertain a motion on what school?
I move we close Antonio Del Bono
Second.
as prescribed by the committee.
A second.
We have a motion and a second.
Enrique Diaz,
No.
BC Doyle,
Yes.
Twin Siak,
Yes.
Mark Good,
Yes.
Anisha Munchi,
Yes.
James Pace,
Yes.
Linda Pacino,
Yes.
Motion carries. All right, Dr. Flores, your work is cut out for you.
Definitely.
Let's make this as painless and good for the students, good for our employees as we can.
President, please, can we take a couple minutes?
We will take a 5-minute recess. All right, are we ready to continue?
I think we are.
We are ready to continue. This brings us to item 7C, approval of contract with Converge One Incorporated to purchase 3,888 Chromebooks. Ms. Giza.
Not 3,889, but 3,880.
I am here to request approval of the purchase of 3,888 Chromebooks for the
Arabelle,
amount
we
of,
can hardly hear you.
for the amount of $1.29 million. And I just want to give you a little introduction as to why I'm here to request that purchase. Recently, Google announced a new policy that they have, and that is that they are now enforcing an auto update expiration date. What this means is that the Chromebook devices, as of a certain date, depending on the model, will no longer receive the newer operating systems. As you know, once a device stops receiving new updates or new operating systems, right, they fall behind, and there's some things that stop working. What does that mean for us? It means that these 3,888 Chromebooks are now stuck at version 74. In order for us to use the Chromebooks for testing in the upcoming spring, they need to be at version 75. And I just want to show you a screenshot of what it looks like on our Chromebooks. Give me 1 second. I just found my map. So this is a screenshot of one of our Chromebooks, and it tells you in the
Please consider.
square red square, that version 74 is the last official build for this Chromebook, right? And like that, we have quite a bit of Chromebooks. They are starting to show up this little by little. Some of the things that we can expect as these versions are stuck at that, these devices are stuck at this version, is that there's some sites that are going to stop working, right? And it's not going to happen all at once, but it will happen a little bit at a time. Our main concern is testing in the springtime. We have about 16 different models across the district. And right now we have 3,888 Chromebooks that are already reached that AUE. We have 6,154 Chromebooks coming up in September of 2021.
2021.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, September of 2021. So some of the discussions, I do want to also share with you that we have some principals that are interested in looking at alternatives. So we will be sitting down and having conversations of what those alternatives can be. What does that mean for the school side? What does that mean for the district? And what are, you know, the extra costs that gets that we need to also consider if we change a platform. So we will be having those discussions. For this time around, we would like to request the purchase of 3,888 Chromebooks because we don't have enough time to do that homework between now and spring and get these devices replaced. I also want to share with you that we requested for quotes from different vendors, and we are not going with the lowest bidder. The reason for that is the big differences in the professional services. The three of the bidders do not include some of the services that Converge One did include, and that means that we would have to provide them with the exact location of the 3,888 Chromebooks for them to replace those Chromebooks. As I mentioned before, we have 16 models, right? And we have purchased these Chromebooks across over many years. So we have mixed models on the same carts. And although we know exactly how many Chromebooks we have per site, and we know how many models per site, we don't know the exact location. And we don't have enough people in the department to do this work before the implementation start and get all this ready by, you know, before the spring. Also, the $1.296 million includes seed cards in order to expedite the implementation. This means that we will bring Chrome cards, fill them with the Chromebooks, take them to the side, replace them so the schools don't have downtime, right? Because otherwise, we would have to pull the Chromebooks, take them out of circulation to be able to do the work, right? And then take them back to the classrooms, and we don't want to do that.
Are they giving us the Chrome cards or are they loaning us?
No, they're part of the quote. So we are keeping.
So it's
Chrome
additional
cards.
hardware over the CDWG bid, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's what we get for the extra 78,000.
I'm sorry?
So it's an extra 78,000, so that's what we get. We get carts and we get their help in identifying, finding the 3,888.
Right, it's a turnkey solution, right? Versus the other three quotes, we would have to do a lot of the work, and we don't have time.
Trustee Beck?
So what are you going to do with the expired Chromebooks?
We are going to recycle those Chromebooks, and we are trying to find a company that see if somebody will give us money for the Chromebooks. We have not been able to find one, but we are working on that. you know, even if it's a little, I mean, a little helps, right? So.
Trustee Diaz?
Sometimes some companies, what they do is they'll have employees get first dibs. That'd be something worth interested to look into and see if any of the employees in the district would want first shot at
The software update.
I know, it's with that restriction, of course.
Right, except, you know, if they have already if they can't go past 74,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, you're right.
Will Google still be putting out security patches for 74, or are they just letting it rot?
no, they're not
We
doing
need to tell Google our opinion of this entire debacle. Mr. Good.
Well, I think the way we tell Google our opinion is to stop buying Chromebooks. And obviously, this is kind of like, I'm viewing this as like a ransomware attack. We have a gun to our head. Pay the money or your business, whatever you're doing, your education stops. So we don't have a choice with this one. I think I have to grudgingly agree with you, you don't have a choice. But rather than leave it up to some principals who look at some alternatives, I would like, as a board, to decide we want alternatives, because this is not tenable.
You can't do this to us again.
No.
Trustee Pisano.
So, these 3,888 that we buy now, what's their,
when do they turn into
what's their
bricks?
death date?
Oh, thank you so much for asking that question. I did forget to mention that the expiration date for this device is from years, from this year. So it will be 2025. Well, that's 6, but it is 2025. It's around June 2025. And the reason why we chose this particular model, that it's a little bit more expensive than other models, is because it has a 5-year life versus other devices only have 3. So if we compare, you know, the sister model of this, the 14G, the total quote is less than $150,000, but $150,000, yes, but it's 2 years less of life. So we didn't even consider that that option.
And the 3,888 and the 6,154, is that all of the Chromebooks we have in the district?
No, we have over 11,000 Chromebooks in the district.
So there's another group?
Yes, 1,158, I'm looking at my numbers.
1,058?
1,158.
1,158. And they die when?
Those have an expiration date between 2023 and 2024. It's a combination.
I can't tell you how offensive I find it that I'm staring at the screen that talks about how they're open source software when they pull stunts like this. That is just reprehensible to me. It is, Trustee Diaz.
I think it's common practice to stop supporting older hardware at some point. I mean, that's kind of common practice for any software company to stop supporting hardware at some point. I don't know how old it's.
You should see what I'm doing with my open source software.
Yeah,
10-year-old hardware.
Well, what it's saying is, it's not saying that it won't run anymore. It's just saying that it won't provide updates anymore.
We won't protect you from security threats anymore.
Yeah.
That is a gun to the back of the head.
That's what it's saying. It's not going to provide any new updates, but it's not going to stop. Like that day, it's not going to stop functioning.
Who would have thought that Microsoft would come out of this looking good? That they kept XP alive as long as they did?
That's exactly it. It's still alive. Yeah.
Well,
No, it's not anymore, but go ahead.
we can't do CASPON,
Yeah.
right? So
And
at
other
insult to
programs.
injury,
That part is not clear, right? Because I mean, CAS hasn't set the minimum requirement.
They did. It's 75,
So it's
75 and
okay.
above.
So then that would be,
Yes.
yeah, that would be it. That would be where it's shooting us in the foot.
So I'm assuming we're not the only district having these issues. So are other districts, do you happen to know if they're going to continue purchasing Chromebooks or they're finding alternatives? It would be nice to know what other districts
Yes, we did call out the districts to see what are they doing and how are they doing it. And it varies by district. You know, some districts have a combination, right? Others have decided to stay with Chromebooks, and that is their platform, and they have decided to make a line item in the budget for these replacements, and they take them out of circulation on a yearly basis as they expire. So there is a combination.
Is anybody switching to another platform? Any district switching that you know of?
No, not switching, but more of a diversity. So they have decided to have, you know, tablets and other type of devices. So now they have a combination of Windows and Apple devices and Chromebooks.
But we can't do CASP on tablets, can we?
And we don't want to. It's just a smaller screen display, but it's allowable.
Yeah.
Not with our
Yeah.
kids having enough trouble as it is
I know.
using the Chromebooks. Can you imagine going to something half that size? It would be tough.
I mean, well, that kind of lends itself to being proactive about it and having a plan. Because I have heard of some districts that they'll have a 3-year cycle, and every 3 years they're just replacing the 3 years old.
It's a good point. We were going to do that.
Yep, I know, that's all.
Sorry. We had talked to the board about a replacement equipment budget primarily because of our computers and getting on a cycle. You know, replace them every 4 or 5 years. We eliminated that the first year of the declining enrollment.
Okay.
So we don't have a replacement equipment budget anymore.
Which brings us to, hey, how are we paying for this?
Title I and general fund.
Yeah.
Yeah, what does that mean? Give us the
Yes,
story.
we are paying $908,000 out of general fund and $388,000 out of Title I. And I'm going to invite Mr. Mesa to the podium so he can talk about the budget.
Throw him under the bus.
Thank you, Maribel. Good evening, board, and it's been a tough meeting, and thank you for your courage. We do have a big problem with equipment replacement. I mean, Maribel is right. Other districts do have this budget that we cut a couple of years ago, so my task sometime this year and soon is to somehow find that solution in the multi-year projection. Certainly by the year 2021, we definitely need to have it. We don't necessarily have to purchase Chromebooks, but we have to then replace these with something else so that our students can take the CASP. So a little bit on how we fund this is we do have Title I carryover that we're tapping into. We have till the end of this month to tap into that carryover, and then we could potentially lose those funds. It's not expected that we would run into that scenario, but we're doing everything we can to spend that down. These are federal funds that are very hard to spend, and they are going to be part of the dollars carryover that you'll see me explaining next year at the next meeting. So about $388,000 is being charged to Title I, and the remaining $907,000 or so is funded out of the general fund. This one-time money that we have that'll fall through at the ending balance this year. We do have to figure out how to fund these 6,000 units or something to replace them in the future.
Good luck.
Thank you, Tracy.
Title I money is pretty restricted, so this is allowable for that?
Yes, I looked at the free and reduced the category of by site. So we have a spreadsheet that backs
By
this
site.
number by site, and we're charging effectively 90% of the unit to the general fund and only 10% to Title I. That's the global figure, but it's site specific.
Yes.
And it's so specific that I have the number of Title I eligible students by site, and those devices need to go into those students that are served and funded by Title I funds.
Well, and regarding declining enrollment and having to replace this, the good news, bad news is that we're the last district in the county to go into declining enrollment, so we have lots of people to call and ask, how are you doing this? Unfortunately, 26 districts we could call and ask.
All right, I could complain about this for another several hours. However, I will entertain a motion to buy these Chromebooks and send Google a strongly worded letter.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. This is a roll call, please.
Enrique Diaz.
Yes.
BC Doyle.
Yes.
Twen Fioc.
Yes.
Mark Good.
Yes.
Anisha Munchi.
Yes.
James Pace.
Yes.
Linda Paceno.
Yes.
Please write that letter.
Thank you.
All right. Here we are. Board member reports.
Well, as Dr. Flores reported, we had a nice barbecue yesterday.
Very nice.
Maintenance staff was very happy. I was very happy that we could do it for them.
Thank you,
And
Trustee.
I want to
Doyle.
thank everybody, the board, Dr. Flores, Alvaro, everybody for supporting it. Where's Melody? She did a lot. She took off. So, but thanks for all the help and the support.
Thank you for making it happen.
Yeah,
It was
yes,
nice.
It was very nice.
Anyone else? Trustee Diaz.
Thank you for organizing that, and I'll get mine on too. The pictures I saw looked amazing, so that was fantastic that you guys did that. Also went to the Christmas Hill Park reopening, and I think that goes a long way to having the community heal. Amazingly, it splits the city in two, and just the whole rerouting of dropping off students and shopping, just going to go put gas. Simple things like that made us, it was a constant reminder. Not that we did it, because it was a really big thing that happened here over the summer, but like I said, we started healing, I think, after that.
We have to go into the closed session.
Oh, Anisha, go ahead.
I visited Rob Kelly and Elliot last Friday. I spent time with both principals talking about the start of the school year, visited several classrooms, and as always, I was very impressed with the instruction going on in all the classrooms. Got to see some field classrooms, got to see some PK classrooms at Elliot. Same thing in Rob Kelly. Also at Elliot, I got to see the 5th straight PBI's kickoff with everybody in the blue wigs. It was a lot of fun. So, very impressed with both school sites.
Great, thank you very much. Trustee Paceno.
I went to, I accompanied Debbie on her tours, site visits of Brownell, South Valley, and Solar Sino. And I think 2 of those schools have new principals, and I think we did good.
Doing really well.
They're doing really well for beginning. I also went to ADB's back to school night, and that's when it kind of hit me that might very well be the school that we close. As I was sitting in the library thinking, well, what are we going to do with all this stuff? It all gets split, and the staff gets split, and the kids get split, and the community gets split. So that was kind of a come to Jesus moment for me. And last Friday, I had a great time going to the San Jose Giants game and listening to the Gilroy High Choir sing the national anthem. They did a great job. And last night, Twen and I were in Oakland at the Oakland A's game, listening to them, and they did a great job. And I happened to sit behind 2 gentlemen, and I didn't even know who they were, and they're Jonathan Sousa's father and uncle. So, and his father is a retired choir and band instructor. He said it was a retired teacher. I said, oh, what did you do? And he said, well, band and choir. I said, oh my God, it's in his DNA. You know? So that was really fun. And on the 15th, I will be at the Giants game listening to them sing at the national anthem at the Giants game. So.
Your dedication to the choir is impressive. Or maybe you like baseball.
I actually have left all of those games early, which is unusual for me. But I'm also dragging friends with me. And Chris Leung was there saying, my God, he says, you got another friend to come? I said, yeah, and on the 15th, I'm dragging my son. So, but I really admire the Gilroy High Choir and what Jonathan Sousa has done in creating a very diverse choir that sings very diverse world music, and I really, really appreciate that.
Thank you. All right, item 9, upcoming and new referral agenda items.
Go into, okay.
Yes.
Well, get there.
Okay, I wasn't sure what the thing was.
Okay, next, item 10, announcements. The next regular meeting of the Board of Education will be held on Thursday, September 19th. Closed session will begin again at 5 o'clock with a study session at 6 o'clock. Do we get the other two high schools? Okay. And regular meeting at 7. The agenda will be posted by the Friday beforehand. And we are adjourning back to closed session. Thank you very much.